Welcome back to the Am I Rich Yet podcast, a weekly podcast where we help millennials and Gen Zs spend, save, and grow their money smarter. Today's episode is everything budgeting. It's a part one of 2 episodes, and I'm Georgia, one of your co-hosts. I'm a Gen Z, current MBA student, and navigating my personal finances.
And I'm Rob, George's dad, a recently retired financial advisor. So George, how are you doing today?
Today's a good day. It's our first couple episodes. We're getting the jitters out. It's a bit nerve-wracking to be on screen. You're a podcast veteran. You and Mike, your business partner, have over 300 episodes, but this is new for me, so it's exciting.
So what do you want to cover today?
So today we're going to be covering budgeting because we had an overwhelming amount of questions about the topic.
So let's talk about budgeting before we're going to get into the details of it. Why do you need a budget? Okay, if you're opening a business, if you're running a business, you need an annual budget. You need to make a forecast as to what the year might look like. If you're going to start a business, a bank won't even talk to you unless you've got a financial plan, a business plan in place. So you need a budget. If you're on a diet, there's a budget as to how many calories you're supposed to have. If you're exercising, how much exercise are you supposed to do a week? If you're looking to buy a new car, how much are you going to spend? Could it be from $20,000 to $50,000? Probably not. You probably got a limit to what you could spend. So understand everything needs a budget. So that's what we're going to start. We're going to go with something really simple. First thing you need to know is what income do you have coming in? So that's pretty straightforward. Then you need to figure out how much tax is being taken off. So now you're looking at your income after tax. Pretty straightforward. And what's left? You can either look at it annually or look at it every month, but maybe you've got $5,000 left. After your income coming in, after you've paid some taxes, what's left? $5,000. That's your starting point. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, so because I'm a human with 2 feet and I know the alphabet, if I want to be someone with financial freedom and someone who's empowered and has control over their finances, I need to have a budget.
Absolutely. Does it need to be to the penny? No, it does not. But you need to have a starting point. How much money do I have every month to work with?
Okay.
That's your budget.
So if I was someone that's never had a budget before, there are 3 things I should be thinking of. First, how much money is coming in? Annually, monthly, what do you think? Just
start annually.
Annually. How much money is coming in?
So that's your income. So maybe
Yes.
I'm making $80,000 a year. So let's say you're paying $20,000 in taxes, $80,000 coming in, you've got $60,000 left. Months? 12 months? So you got $5,000 left every month.
Yes. Okay. Great
Okay.
math. Were you worried I wasn't going to know how many months are in a year?
It was a good question. So now that we've got that budget, $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month.
If someone's never even taken a look at how much money they're bringing in annually, or let's say they have 2 income streams, where should they go to find these? And if you do have more than 1 income stream, should you be putting this all together?
Easiest place is you could go to your pay slip. If you get it every 2 weeks, just go look at what's your gross income, what are you paying in income tax, and there's going to be some other stuff there, don't worry about that. And then what's the net amount you're receiving? If you're wondering, there's 2 terms here. One is gross, one is net. How do I remember which is which? G comes before N in the alphabet. That's how I remember it. Because sometimes I get confused. What's net income? What's gross income? So G comes before N. Just really simple. Okay? Yeah. So when I was working with a budget for my clients, I didn't want to know every dollar they're spending. So what I did is I said to them, we're going to break it down into lifestyle. Okay, what are you spending in your lifestyle? What are you spending on housing? What are you spending on travel? Those 3 things. We're going to start with that. So you can look at housing. What's my rent? What's my cell phone? What's my heat, hydro, electricity, depending on what you're having to pay for? Mm-hmm. What are you spending a year on travel? And then you've got your other expenses. So that's your starting point. So you don't need to get complicated. You don't need 20 categories. Some people like having 20 categories. I now have 20 categories, but when I started with 3 or 4. And most of my clients, for 30 years, I've been saying to them, I just need to know these. You might put auto as a separate category, but that's it. What's the total cost of your car, insurance, gas, maybe you've got a lease or a loan. What's that total cost to you?
So what you're saying is net income, which is your income after taxes. You're then going to look at what expenses you have to pay. These are the 3 categories that you just listed off are things that you have to pay, essentially, that are being subtracted from that net income. Is that right?
Yep. So let's go back to our example. We had $5,000 a month to work with. Let's say $2,000 is going to housing.
Yep.
$2,000 is going to everything else, credit cards, you name it. So we've used up $4,000. We had $5,000. What have we got left? Maybe we travel a bit, $500 a month, $6,000 a year. So we've got $500 left. Where does that go? Maybe that goes to savings. Maybe it goes to the car. So maybe you're using up your entire amount. And I understand a lot of people do. They're living pay to pay. They say 75% of Canadians under the age of 30 are living pay to pay. So you're not alone in that category.
Okay.
Make sense?
Got it.
So how do you keep track of this? And do you need an app right away? Or what do you do today, George?
So to be honest, I haven't found an app that I love. I use Google Sheets. I keep it in my Google Drive, and that's where I keep my budget.
Okay, that's a good starting point. A spreadsheet is perfectly fine. Easy to work with. You can put a couple of categories in there. You can run it out for 12 months, whatever. You can get more detailed. I used to work with a lot of engineers, so I had some who would come in with really detailed spreadsheets of every dollar they've ever spent. I got them to get rid of the spreadsheets after a while because you didn't need to make it that complicated. It can be much simpler. So that's a good starting point. Spreadsheet is perfectly fine.
Okay.
So what's next? Where do you think your generation spends too much money?
Oh God, a lot of things. Food category, takeout food, Uber Eats, coffee, matcha once a day, travel, electronics. I mean, there's new iPhones out that people are wanting to get. Kind of like just general lifestyle purchases.
So if you've got this budget and you're starting to take on debt, what does that mean?
You are spending more than your budget allows for.
Absolutely. So I'm not saying you've got to cut all of that stuff out, but you've got to understand where your money's going.
Yep.
And that's the first step. It's like back to a diet. You know, what extra calories are you eating every day? If you're having a chocolate bar every night, that's adding 200, 250 calories to your daily total. Mm-hmm. Plus, it's giving you a sugar boost at the end of the day, and you're probably having bad sleep. At least I am. Mm-hmm. So you need to get into the nitty gritty of it. Now, there are some great apps out there. Mm-hmm. If you want to move beyond the spreadsheet, I might suggest if you're with one of the big 5 banks, there's probably a pretty good budgeting app. Maybe you haven't even looked at it, but it's there. And it's looking at your bank account, your credit card, and you can create a budget in a couple of hours, just online. Easy to do. You're probably better not to do it on your cell phone. It's probably easier to do initially on a laptop or desktop, and then use your phone to track it after that. There are some great apps out there. You can use ChatGPT and figure out what are the best ones in Canada. We're not going to have time to review all of those today. Mm-hmm. For myself, I use Quicken. I've been using it for over 30 years, and it's worked for me. It's very detailed, and I know it has absolutely helped me build wealth, and it costs less than $100 a year. So it's pretty easy. Mm-hmm. Okay? So let's go where I think some of the money's being spent.
And just quickly before we move on, one thing I do want to say is, There's been periods of my life where I haven't kept track of my spending and I didn't have a budget. And it feels like you don't have control. Every time you swipe your card or tap your card, you have this sense of guilt or anxiety because you don't know if you can afford that, if you should be spending this much on something. And what I think is important for the audience to remember is that having a budget, knowing what money you have to spend, gives you the sense of empowerment and financial freedom so that, if let's say in your budget you had $500 left over to spend, then it's okay if you're spending that $500 on a $500, skin treatment, if that's what you want to spend that extra money on. Or if you want that to put it into savings, that's okay too. The bottom line is that it's empowering to know where your money's going and to know that you're not digging yourself into a hole when tapping your credit card.
That makes complete sense. And, once you get into a budgeting savings mode, you're going to start feeling a little more confident when you're doing your shopping. And it's so easy to shop today. It is so easy on your phone. You can order things through Amazon or directly from whoever you want to buy it from in less than a minute. Your credit card information is saved, your home delivery, it is so fast, you don't even have time to think of whether you should be buying it or not. You just, boom, make the purchase. We've all done that. And before you know it, a week later or the next day, the package arrives and sometimes you've even forgot you ordered it, which tells you you got a spending problem. Yeah. Georgia, you have a spending problem. Okay? Since you've been home, there's a lot more Amazon packages arriving at the house. And she's only been home for a month. Oh, it's for the podcast. Okay.
But hold on, before we move on quickly, how frequently would you recommend people update their budgets?
You probably want to be looking at the data at least once a week, open it up and have a look at it. Mm-hmm. But once a month, you need to figure out, we're early June now, you need to figure out, how did May work out?
Yeah.
Was I over or under? You're never going to be right on. You're either going to be over or under, and you want to know where you stand. I think that's important. Repetition builds muscle, right? Yep. That's what they say. You love to work out. The more reps you do, the better you're going to be at it, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, where do I think your generation spends a lot of money? We're going to talk about Uber food, Uber rides. So let's start with Uber rides. Okay, I think it's great. You're not drinking and driving, but you're avoiding public transit. You're just go on the app. 2 minutes later, a car arrives and it takes you to your destination, whether it costs $15 or $25, you don't care. So I think you should be doing that, but maybe the odd time you should be walking or using public transit or having a friend pick you up.
Yeah.
Like, you somehow have to create room in your budget. So you gotta, I'm not saying forgo everything. If you like going to Starbucks, maybe you go twice a week, 3 times a week, not 7 times a week. Sometimes you might go twice a day and pay $5 for a coffee. Put Tim Hortons in there at $1.50. Like, you gotta figure it out. If you keep spending, you're gonna go nowhere. You're gonna be in real trouble. You're gonna take on too much debt. So that's important. I always look at who's doing all the advertising. So if I watch a sporting event, Uber ads are all over the place. Uber delivery, food. We joked about the $31 pad thai. But I can't afford a $31 pad thai. I want my pad thai to be $15, $18. Mm-hmm. So if I have to go pick it up, I gotta go pick it up. If I'm having it delivered, it's $31. Especially if I order it through DoorDash or Uber. So yeah, maybe treat yourself once a week or once every 2 weeks to doing that. But the rest of the time, figure it out. I remember one time we were, as a family, we were in a park. And you guys ordered food to the park and the delivery guy brought the food to us. We could have walked 200 yards to pick up the food ourselves, but we paid for someone to deliver it to the park. I knew we were in trouble then, okay? Phone services, shop around. Phones are expensive, especially in Canada, we know that. So is there a cheaper plan that you could be on? Is the iPhone 15 better than the 13? Man, really? They're all pretty much the same. Yeah, maybe the camera's a little better. So you don't need the current one all the time. Maybe you wait an extra year or an extra 2 years. The phone's still good as long as it's working, and that's going to save you money. I'm not a big believer in this whole sports gambling thing. I think if you look at all the advertising dollars that those companies are spending, they are making money hand over fist. They're not doing it for free. It's like Vegas. Who built Vegas? All the people who went down and lost their money. Who built these sports gambling enterprises? The people who lost. And at the end of the day, regardless of whether you think you're good at betting, you're probably not, and it's probably not a moneymaker. It's probably an expense, not an income for you. So that's my take. I know that's harsh, but that's what I see. So we can't solve all of it, but you gotta figure out how can I contain it a little better.
Yeah. And I think these are trade-offs that result in future gains. And they don't have to be permanent, but if we're looking at where we are today, we need to understand that there are some sacrifices that we have to make to achieve this financial freedom, and they're temporary. Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm hoping. Please tell me the $35.
They are. So,
please tell me one day I can afford it.
But it doesn't make sense. If I can't, like there's certain stores I go into, I like good clothes.
Yeah.
But if I go into Harry Rosen's, I can't shop here. It's just too expensive.
Yeah.
I'd rather put a little legwork in and get still a nice wardrobe, but for less.
Yeah.
Like, when you go to Holt Renfrew, and if that's your shopping thing, like maybe put some cheap stuff, go to Old Navy the odd time and pick up a couple of items.
Yeah.
At least cut the price of what you bought in half by dollar cost averaging. We'll talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Okay? So we've covered a little bit about budgeting. Create a simple budget, start tracking it, use the spreadsheet, use some of the bank apps. There's some other good apps out there. Go find them. Next week, what we're going to cover is
budgeting part 2.
So what is budgeting part 2? We're going to take some of your questions that you've had around budgeting, and we're going to come up with the answers to those questions and give you some things to think about.
Thanks for tuning in to the Am I Rich Yet podcast week 2, and we are looking forward to seeing you next week for part 2 of the podcast.
Episode 3.